Okay, ready to dive into a linguistic rabbit hole. Today, we're talking about ghost words.
These aren't the words that go boo in the dictionary, though. I admit that would make my job more interesting.
No, sadly, no spooky sounds today, but trust me, ghost words are fascinating in their own right.
Absolutely. Imagine words that have somehow wormed their way into dictionaries even though they never actually existed. They are products of typos, misreadings, or just plain old scholarly blunders becoming solidified in print despite being completely made up.
And we've got a treasure trove of sources to unearth these ghostly words today. Cambridge Dictionary, Wikipedia, Dictionary.com, Grammarly, even some tales from the granddaddy of dictionaries itself, Webster's.
It's going to be a fascinating exploration of how these linguistic phantoms come to be.
And to kick things off, we've got to start with the story of Dord. I'm still wrapping my head around this one. It's a word that never actually existed, yet somehow it managed to haunt Webster's New International Dictionary for years.
The irony is not lost on me, I assure you. A dictionary, the supposed guardian of proper language, harboring a phantom word.
So tell me, how does something like this even happen? How does a non-existent word become immortalized in print?
It all boils down to, well, a comedy of errors, really. Back in the 1930s, during the creation of Webster's Second, the chemistry editor submitted a slip reading D or D, a standard notation for density at the time. But imagine those letters separated by hyphens, a common practice back then. What you get is D or D.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going.
Somewhere along the line, this got misinterpreted as a single word, Dord. And just like that, a ghost word was born.
They let that error slide for 5 years. Unbelievable. Someone really let the Dord out of the bag on that one. But okay, this is a classic example of what we're talking about with ghost words, right? Words that become entries in the dictionary despite never actually existing.
Precisely. Dord stands as a monument to the fact that even our most trusted sources are products of human fallibility.
It really makes you wonder how many other words we use today might have started as these sorts of linguistic hiccups.
And that's where our journey into the world of ghost words truly begins.
Dord is a pretty compelling piece of evidence that dictionaries aren't infallible. What other linguistic specters have researchers dug up?
Well, after Dord brought the concept to light, a whole graveyard of ghost words was unearthed. One of the most prolific ghost word hunters was Professor Walter William Skeet, a true pioneer in the field.
He was the original Ghostbuster of words. What were some of his most interesting finds?
One that always comes to mind is the word abacot. Turns out it originated as a simple misspelling of bicocket back in the 16th century.
Hold on. Bicocket doesn't even sound like a real word to me, let alone abacot. What did it mean?
Bicocket was a type of hat. Someone must have misread it. And abacot took on a life of its own, even ending up in multiple dictionaries before Skeet finally unmasked it.
Centuries of people thinking abacot was a real thing, so what can we learn from this? It seems like even slight errors can have a lasting impact on the language.
Absolutely. These ghost words highlight just how fluid and ever-evolving language truly is. But the case of abacot is just the tip of the iceberg. Skeet uncovered a whole collection of these phantom words.
Do tell. I'm ready for more.
One particularly striking example is chimes. This word popped up in a review of a book about Hindu customs. The text mentioned Hindus running chimes through their hands.
Okay, that sounds a bit intense. I can only imagine what people thought a chime was.
You're not far off. Readers envisioned all sorts of bizarre torture devices. However, it turns out chimes was nothing more than a misprint of the word knives.
Wow, so a simple typo sparked imaginations and created this whole concept of a chime. That's pretty amazing.
It really demonstrates how context colors our understanding of words. Our brains try to make sense of them, even if it means inventing meanings where none exist. And on that note, one more of Skeet's discoveries that I find particularly amusing is the word Morse.
As in Morse code. But how could that be a ghost word?
Well, in this case, Morse appeared long before the invention of Morse code. It popped up as a misreading of the word nurse in a Sir Walter Scott novel. The original sentence read, "Dost thou so soon Morse thoughts of slaughter?"
Okay, I can see where the confusion might arise. In that context, Morse almost sounds like it could be a verb, maybe meaning to suppress or harbor.
Exactly. Readers even went as far as crafting elaborate etymologies to justify its existence. Some linked it to the French word for to prime, as in priming a musket, while others connected it to the Latin word for to bite, implying to indulge in biting, stinging, or gnawing thoughts of slaughter.
People really ran with it. It makes you wonder if all words were, at some point, just someone's best guess, later legitimized through repetition.
An interesting thought. And, Skeet's work, while groundbreaking, was just the beginning. He may have been a prolific ghost word hunter, but modern dictionaries are still full of them?
Really? You're telling me, even with all our modern technology and advancements in lexicography, these linguistic phantoms are still slipping through the cracks?
Oh, absolutely. Dictionary.com, for example, offers up a whole slew of more recent examples.
Okay, lay it on me. What other ghostly words are lurking in the pages of modern dictionaries?
Well, let's start with tweed, the fabric. Now, a common word, it's believed to be a mispronunciation of twill, which itself originated as a Scottish pronunciation of, you guessed it, twill.
So we've got a whole chain of linguistic transformations from twill to tweel to tweed. It's fascinating how these errors can become standardized through common usage.
Exactly. And it gets even better. Consider the word syllabus, that staple of academic life. It's thought to be a centuries-old typo of the Greek word syllabus, or perhaps situbus.
Wait, so you're telling me syllabus, this word that strikes fear into the hearts of students everywhere, has been haunting us since the time of the ancient Greeks?
Perhaps. And it shows how even scholarly works aren't immune to these ghostly intrusions.
It makes you want to go back and double-check all your sources, doesn't it?
Indeed. And just to add one final bit of levity to the mix, let's not forget about caribou, a delightful misprint for caribou that managed to find its way into the Oxford English Dictionary.
The OED, the gold standard of dictionaries, you're kidding?
I'm afraid not. It's a stark reminder that even the most prestigious sources are susceptible to human error. The entry even used the example sentence, "It, the caribou," then suddenly squats upon its haunches and slides along the glare ice.
I can just picture a tired editor, their eyes glazing over after hours of proofreading, mistaking caribou for caribou. It's oddly comforting, actually. It shows that even the most esteemed lexicographers are human, after all.
Precisely. And, all the examples we've discussed so far have been accidental intrusions into the world of words. But sometimes these errors can be a little more, well, intentional.
You're talking about those words that are deliberately made up and slipped into dictionaries, right? Like as a copyright trap.
Exactly. These are known as nahal articles. They might seem like a harmless prank, but they serve a crucial purpose, protecting intellectual property.
It's like a linguistic watermark. What's a good example of a Neil article?
One of the most famous is the word equivalence. It was specifically coined and defined as the willful avoidance of one's official responsibilities.
Wow. It even sounds legitimate, like something you'd find in a company's code of conduct.
And that was precisely the point. It was cleverly inserted into the new Oxford American Dictionary as a copyright trap. So if you ever find yourself tempted to use equivalence in casual conversation,
I'll be sure to double-check my sources. Or just embrace my newfound talent for avoiding responsibility.
perhaps. But in all seriousness, it's incredible how complex the world of ghost words really is.
We've got accidental misspellings, misinterpretations, and even intentional fabrications. It's like a linguistic cabinet of curiosities.
Indeed. And what's even more fascinating is that we've only just scratched the surface. Who knows what other linguistic mysteries are hidden in the depths of dictionaries and forgotten texts?
It's like we've fallen down this rabbit hole and landed smack dab in a linguistic masquerade ball. All these words dressed up, in meaning, but some of them are just phonies in disguise. But before we get too lost in the fun of it all, what's the bigger takeaway here? Why should we care about ghost words?
It's a question worth pondering. For me, ghost words are a powerful reminder that language isn't, this rigid, unchanging structure we might think it is. It's dynamic, evolving constantly through use, misuse, and even the occasional typo.
Yeah. It's almost comforting in a way. Dictionaries and grammar rules can feel so absolute, but this proves that even language has its quirks and bloopers.
Absolutely. Ghost words provide this fascinating glimpse into the history of language, really. They show how meaning is created, how it morphs over time, and how interconnected it all is with human error, ingenuity.
And let's be honest, haven't we all had those moments where we're absolutely sure a word is made up only to find out it's a real thing? Or the opposite,
Okay.
where we use a word confidently only to have someone look at us like we just sprouted a second head?
More often than I'd like to admit.
Right.
These ghost word moments, I think they should encourage us to be more critical thinkers,
Mm.
right? Don't just accept what you read, even from authoritative sources.
Hmm.
Dig a little deeper. Question your assumptions about language, and maybe even do a little etymological investigation of your own.
It's like being a word detective. You never know what you might unearth. But now I'm left with this unsettling thought. What if, lurking among the words we use every day, are ghost words that have simply become so ingrained that nobody even questions them anymore?
Now, that's a truly intriguing notion to consider. These linguistic phantoms, hiding in plain sight, having seamlessly integrated into our vocabulary. It makes you wonder how much of our language we take for granted, assuming its legitimacy without a second thought.
It's enough to make you want to examine every word you utter, every sentence you write. Who knows what other linguistic mysteries we might uncover if we just start looking a little closer.
Precisely. And that, my friend, is the beauty of language. It's a never-ending journey of discovery. So to our listeners, I say this: embrace the quirks, question the familiar, and never stop exploring the hidden depths of the words we use every single day.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with that thought-provoking image. Happy word hunting, everyone.